Well, shalom, everybody. Rabbi Ariel here from the KosherTorah School, found on KosherTorah.com. It's been a good number of months since I've had a chat with you guys here on YouTube. It's been with good reason, I might add. You know, 6 months ago was the beginning of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. And I shared with you then, I practiced the old ancient techniques of what we called Aliyah, which means that you go into a meditative trance and you astral project and you go and speak to whoever is up there and try to get an insight of what's going to happen in the world. Well, I shared with you my insights and my revelations at that time. That was 6 months ago. And pretty much everything that I've shared then seems to be coming about right now. So here we are. Today is the first day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, which is Rosh Hodesh Nisan. And in the Torah tradition, like the Bible teaches us, this is the first day of the year as we judge the year by the number of months. So while Tishrei, that's in the fall, that's Rosh Hashanah, the new year, that's the time of judgment. Tishrei as judgment, and Nisan, which is now, this is the month of Passover, the time of the redemption. And as such, this is a time when more things are going to happen. Take a look at what's happening in the world. So many, in quote, coincidences have been happening. The terrible terrorist attack in Moscow, which is allegedly done by ISIS. ISIS has now become the boogeyman, which is blamed for everything. Yeah, I'm not going to cast aspersions, but best what is unsaid will say what needs to be said. And then we had that bridge collapse in Baltimore. And my goodness, what a number of coincidences had to come together so as to make that event happen as it did when it did. Very curious. Again, I don't want to cast any aspersions, but as we say in Hebrew, hamevin yavin, those who understand will understand. Israel seems to be pushing for a war by attacking an embassy yet. That's normally considered taboo. We don't do things like that, even in the war against terrorism. But apparently right now all gloves are off with regards to this war. We all know the terrible atrocity that was perpetuated by Hamas against Israelis back in October. And the world has tended to forget that and look at what Israel is doing to what they believe are the poor, innocent Palestinian people. Mind you, these poor, innocent Palestinian people all rejoiced when their soldiers perpetuated this act against Israel. And it was these same Palestinian people who also rejoiced when the World Trade Towers were destroyed with the loss of life back in 2001. Same people. Matter of fact, children that were rejoicing there in 2001 are now the adults who are fighting or perpetuating these same crimes. They've been raised like that, and they don't know any other life. Is everybody guilty or whatever? There is no such thing as an everybody, because you always have exceptions to every rule. Just remember the real truth. There's good and bad on all sides. There always has been, and there always will. But let that not blind your eye from the reality of the existence of good and evil, because that does exist. And the hatred and the violence and the vehemence in the hearts of people, that is what defines evil. And in all due respect, it exists on every side. In the Middle East, it exists in Iran. It exists in Israel. It exists in Gaza. It exists everywhere. Good and evil. It exists in the United States. It exists in Europe. It exists in Russia. It exists in China. It exists everywhere. So be careful if you are inclined towards one side politically or another, to always recognize even the side that you embrace is not 100% pure in any stretch of the imagination. While those of us here in the religious camps in the United States, we tend to belong to what is considered to be, or the conservative camp, because we hold by biblical values and morals and ethics dating back, of course, from ancient times in our religious traditions. But yet, at the same time, that doesn't mean everyone in the, in quote, conservative camp is a righteous, decent, moral individual. And to say in the opposite, you have people on the, in quote, left. And the left today in the West is, let's be realistic, if you study the real political science of it, they are not even leftist socialist. They are outright communist. It's an atheist movement, which is with as much zeal as any religious movement to literally overthrow the old school ways. And where this is going to end up, God knows. And we will see. Because if you look at history, look at what God has done. Look at what God continues to do. And I know many of you say, I don't believe in God. I believe in whatever you believe in. Fine. That's fine. You know what? It doesn't matter. We are living in prophetic times. And things are going to progress, whether you like it or not. We know that there is going to be significant disturbances arising in the Middle East very soon, and it's going to spread. Why? Because it's just the way of things. We, as the human race, are being watched. We're being watched by, call it whatever conspiracy theory belief you want to believe. But ultimately, like it says in the book of Daniel, Bible stuff, we're being watched by those representatives of God who he calls the watchers. And they report to heaven, not that heaven doesn't know with or without them, but ultimately we are all here being watched and we're being judged. Now, I'm not so much worried about an eternal afterlife or a heaven or a hell. As you know, the original biblical Torah tradition, we do not embrace that concept as our brothers and sisters in Christianity and Islam do. We're very, very different with regards to afterlife beliefs. But in this life beliefs, pretty much we all believe in the same ideas and concepts of righteousness, morality, and holiness. And that is really what binds us together. And we will be judged by how we learn to either stand united or fall divided. And that's really where we're at right now. The big doo-doo is going to hit the fan. There's just no way around it. It's going to happen. And I've been feeling for a long time that I have to come back and share with you, talk to you about what's happening, and hopefully try to encourage you to do the one thing that matters, and the only thing that matters, and that is to turn back to God. And when I say that, I don't mean to turn back to God in your doctrine, theology, or philosophy. I really don't care what you believe. I care what you do. And if you really study the biblical prophets clearly, and when they say, this is what God wants, I think that's what it boils down to. What we do. So for those of us who are of different religious backgrounds, various philosophical schools, it's time to put all that aside and to recognize that it's the definitions of morality, righteousness, and decency. This is what unites us. And this is how we have to learn to stand together. Because if not, then that dark wave of hatred, which is overtaking the world right now, will overtake you as well. You gotta learn to stand against it, because it's not going to creep into your head. It's going to creep into your heart. That is the way the real dark side works. All right. Take these things into account. With God's blessings, I'm going to continue giving you little, hopefully, talks on a regular basis. I'll reveal to you some things more and more as we go along. And I hope and pray that we'll start paying attention. So pass around the word. I'm back. and I'm going to share things, and they're not going to be politically correct, and they're going to be rather revelatory. And as we say, it might piss off some people, and if it does, well, so be it. But remember this. All of our political affiliations, all of our social affiliations, we're going to have to, as they say, be a little bit more flexible and stretching things a bit to recognize that we stand together with the righteous. And the righteous is defined by behavior, not by beliefs. All righty, guys. God's blessings. Ariel about Tzadok. You find me at KosherTorah.com. I'll bring in more about books and prophecy and stuff as we continue our next classes. Take care. God bless. I'll see you soon. Shalom.